Welcome everybody to another Geometry Dash tutorial. Recently I played this level and also got a very cool up to speedrun record, and I realized that it's kind of missing some stuff. I love this level, which is why I speedran it, but today I'm going to be just teaching you guys how you can make your level look a bit more appealing. Now don't get me wrong, this level is pretty cool, so we're just going to be spicing up this level. We're just going to go to the editor, and let's say you have a level like this. How do you spice it up to make sure it gets featured? Because I believe this level is pretty cool, like I said. So we're just going to go ahead and start spicing it up. So the first thing you guys will see is that the blocks don't look that cool. For some reason, the ones that are used in Dash, although they're the exact same ones, why do they look better in Dash? Reason being is because after every single pixel block, you guys will see that there are these weird things. What exactly are those? Well, if you do this, now we have something like that. I'm just going to use like completely new colors just to make sure that I don't overlap any of the currently existing colors. So something like this, right? And now you guys will see there's this thing which belongs to that thing, right? So exactly after it. And if you place it over it, you guys will see that it kind of adds like a new dimension to it. If we do that, and then we copy and paste this, and then we add this. And let's add these because we used those. So we're gonna add the next one, and this one belongs to here. You guys will see that this just has a bit more depth to it, which is awesome. So obviously RobTop added those for a reason, so you should probably use them as well. And you guys will see that just adjusting the colors a little bit will just make it a lot cleaner. So I'm not gonna like decorate the entire level. You just saw that it has 3 sections, so we're gonna do until here. We're gonna like decorate it a bit and just spice it up. So how do we spice this up? We just go to the next layer, make sure that there's nothing in here. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add this, go to here, and then click this plus so that I instantly go to the next layer. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and simply just, placing these guys where they should be. Now in here there's one, and you guys will see that those are only applicable to the objects that are facing up, which just makes this even easier to decorate. So something like this comes here and there we go. We're almost done. See, like it's like a really like small things that you can do that will just make your level look a lot cleaner. Is this the same object or is that something else? I'm not too sure. We're gonna see that, but for now let me just go ahead and make this into a low opacity thing. And you guys can see this is how it looked like before, and this is how it looks like now. You guys can see that it just adds a bit more to it. Now, the second thing I realized is that the blue color, I'm not too sure if it looks cool, because Mushroom Cave, I know you want it to be blue, but I believe if the blue was a different shade, something like, I don't know, something like that, maybe a bit more saturated, would make it a lot cool, because I like the idea of having gray alongside very saturated objects. However, if you want to do that, then how about you go absolutely nuts with it? So what the heck is this? That's a checkpoint. Okay, so I see particles in here, which I think is phenomenal. Using particles in here is pretty cool. And I'm gonna just go ahead and create a custom particle in here. So I'm gonna use this sprite. I'm gonna do something a bit bigger. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna do like a very slow but lasting particle. So something like this. That's only gonna go, kind of up, but also a bit to the right and left. And we have a fade in and fade out. I'm gonna make it really big. And most importantly, the opacity is going to be like really low. And you guys are going to see that this is just going to bring so much more life to it. We're going to make it blue, and we're going to make it rotate randomly like so. So this is the particle that we have created, and I'm just going to go ahead and add it in here, and we're going to go ahead and increase this. So we're just going to adjust some stuff. I believe it's still low opacity, so I'm just bringing this up and see how it's going to look like now. You guys can see that it's kind of like, it's like smoking, you can say. So just make sure you add it at the right spot. Something like this, a bit more of a Y, a bit more of that. And yeah, make it quick start so that it instantly starts. And this looks pretty cool. Now, another thing when you want to use like these saturated looking things alongside a gray area, I would highly recommend using a big glow that has very low opacity. Something like, you want to make it like really big like that, and then make it really blue, and then make it dark, and that looks pretty cool. And yeah, so another thing is that I feel like it's a bit too bright. Like this section is a cave, so it's supposed to be very, very dark. So I see there's a lens circle, which is pretty good, don't get me wrong, and I do have preview shaders. but I'd like to have it a little, actually this was just for the transitions. So I'm gonna just go ahead and copy and paste it over to here. I want to have like a, you can say like a just slow or like a low fade lens circle. So we're gonna bring this down, which doesn't work. But anyway, if you have a touch on this thing, touch trigger, you can just go ahead and do preview, and it's actually gonna start previewing it, which is pretty cool. Fade time is gonna be 0, and size something like this, and the fade is gonna be like that. So that's pretty cool. And now you guys can see that we have created this just tiny bit of detail to it. Also, let's see what object is being used here by going to here, and now we can just use the exact same thing that we added previously. Just make sure that we add it on the exact right layer. So we're going to select the object that we had previously, which is this one. We're going to go to the layer and we're going to paste it back, and we're going to copy the values and paste everything over to here. And yeah, you guys see this wall is also has a lot of meaning to it, which is pretty nice. So one thing I love about this level is that it has spikes that are very visible instead of, you know, making them gray or something. Would have been very weird. So the fire in here, there's so much you can do with the fire. You can add a particle, something like this. You can make it big, do that, and then you can just make it smaller and do 0.2, and in here 0.4, do max, and then use 1 to 2 particles, maybe 3, and bring all of these guys to 0, make it really big. And now you just want to make it red and kind of orangey. So you have this, and now you can just place it in here, make it big and make it big. And now you can just bring down the opacity to something random. And now you guys will see that it's just flashing like that, which looks pretty cool. If you want to make it a bit faster, you can bring these guys down, and you guys can see that it looks pretty nice. So you can change the color as you want, and I think this looks pretty cool. I'm just gonna get rid of this just because I think it's in the wrong place. There's just text on there, and I don't want to have that. So since we added this thing, how about we just go ahead and copy and paste it to all of the areas that have this high opacity, and this does not count to it. And also the particle that we added, we're just gonna go ahead and add that over to here as well. Now for the upper part, let's see, does that look cool? Yes, it does. So we're just gonna go ahead and add it over there as well. And that's nice. I'm gonna go ahead and make it a bit bigger. So yeah, that looks a lot cleaner. So let's see for these guys. Actually, I'm pretty sure for those, what the heck is this object? Let me just see. Okay, so these guys don't have a, we call it a highlighter or a highlight object. And I see this thing, which I believe is just not correctly colored. So let me just go ahead and improve the color. So color 1 should always be darker than color 2, just so that it stands out a bit more. You guys can see that this looks a lot cleaner. And we're gonna do the same with these guys, just a tiny bit of detail, making them a bit smaller. I love the details that are like added here and there. I think they look pretty cool. And since this is a cave, I'm just gonna go ahead and add a completely new thing. I want to add something completely new, which I would love to use slopes for, but this guy is using pixel art, so we're just going to stick to that. I'm going to bring these guys to a new layer. We're going to make them completely black by doing so, and we're just going to create something like that. It's like a spike, which I think will look pretty cool with this, and we're going to go ahead and fill it in completely with black stuff. So you just want to spice it up, just keep adding stuff until it feels good. So all of that is going to be, of course, black, like so. We're going to put that on the foreground, and we're going to just, you know, place this randomly in here like so, and another spike, another spike, another spike like that. So just copying and pasting it just to make sure it has a bit of detail. What you can also do is select all of it, give it a 286, a group ID, and then do in here 286. You want it to copy, to like follow the camera movements forever, but with a bit of modifications. And now you guys can see the level just looks a bit cleaner, which I think is pretty cool. So now this thing is way too off, so I guess the value that would be correct is something like that. I'm not even too sure how this thing works, but I think the lower the number, the more accurate it will be for this part. Yes, this looks a lot cleaner now. And you guys saw that this platform is also doesn't have the exact right color. There might be even a highlighter for it. Let me just check. There is no highlighter, so I guess let's just change the color to make it a bit cleaner. There is no highlighter, and this only has a single color, so what I would recommend is not using it because it doesn't fit that much with your level. So I'm just gonna go ahead and replace it with something that actually fits. This thing, for example, has two colors and it's gonna look clean. So I'm just go ahead and, you know, copy the colors, values, stats, and everything. And you guys can see it doesn't look that good. So we're gonna replace the color with something a lot cleaner. And the second color is gonna be, ooh, see? This just brings it so much more to life. And we're gonna make it a bit darker. You go away and you are gonna replace you right there. Looks a lot cleaner. Now, I'm not too sure what these area triggers are. So 24. Okay, so I guess these are just for the background, which I'm not gonna get into because the background is like really messy, but that's all right. Also, how about we just change the color of this guy just to make it a bit more... Let's make this completely red, and color 2 is gonna be super yellow. You guys see that it just makes the thing look a lot cleaner. So another thing that you could do is, you know how we added this particle? How about we also add it in here? Just gonna add like a bit of lightning, which doesn't really work. Okay, what the heck is this as well? There's a misplacing of a object in here. So you want to make sure that you actually use the blocks properly. You should have used these guys, and so he used those ones, which are not correct because they have a highlighter below, which is not correct. You should use these. And if you just go to here, you'll see how Robtop basically structures these. So this is top left, middle, top right, and then it goes like that, basically as if you're reading a book. So even this one comes in here, that one comes in there, and that one comes in here like that. So he used this one over here, which didn't look that good. That's why always important to just use the right object. So in here it also uses those, which is not the correct one. Now this isn't really a big deal, but it just adds a bit more to it. So in here we want to use the right side, which is that one, copy and paste everything, and it's just gonna make it look a bit cleaner, right? So these ones are also incorrect. I could replace the ones on the left too, but I already added the details, so I am not gonna change that as well. And yeah, this looks pretty nice. So we added particles, we made it a bit more saturated. So how about we change the overall looks of this? How about we change, for example, this thing is, so if you make it bright, you can see it just starts to look terrible. So we're going to make it a bit darker. And this one, we're going to spice it up by making it a bit lighter like that, just to bring a bit more detail. Maybe that's a bit too bright. So let's do something like that. Yeah, that looks cool. Also, you can, let me just adjust these like that. It's just one thing to optimize. I saw that the way the coins are placed with the sound effects is not entirely correct. I'm gonna do a full video on how you do the coins with the way Robtop does it, with the style, with the ending stuff where you have to collect a certain amount and all that. But generally speaking, you want to have a single sound effect with the ID 287, and you want that to be spawn and multi-trigger, and then using this you can just spawn, what was it, 287, so you can spawn 287 like that, and that should do the same thing. Now, why do we do this? Firstly, it saves objects. Instead of having to place a sound effect at every single one of them, you can just have here, and in case in the future you don't like this sound effect anymore, you can just adjust it in here once, and that would be changed for all of them. So I think that's pretty cool. And I feel like the fire is just so cool looking. We just need to spice it up a bit more because I feel like it has a lot of things. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add this same glow. See, I just copied the glow that he already had and I pasted it, and it just added so much to it. And I see that it's only added on these guys, which is pretty good. Honestly, I don't like these guys being rotated. It just does not look good. So I'm gonna just go ahead and get rid of them. And yeah, you guys now see that there isn't really that much detail going on in the background, but I think it looks better. Although there's less detail, I personally think it looks better. And what the heck is going on here? Why is this not wooden? So let me just change that. I probably changed some other stuff in here. So yeah, let me just go ahead and give this a completely new color because I don't want to mess with any of this stuff that's currently here. So we're gonna make this wooden, we're gonna make this wooden, but of course one has to be always less than 2. That's always the hint when using pretty much any of the wrapped up colors. And now I can see this one is actually changed, which is not what we want. So something like that, bring it back to its original color. And how about we just add a few more details just here and there, because I feel like there's not enough of these wooden things, like orange things. There was just one thing in this entire part. So yeah, this thing, let's also make it paste to state. And what else is there? Do not add these as a decoration because they look like spikes. And yeah, I don't know what this is, like a goose or something, but it does look like a spike, so I am not adding that. And let's use grass. Does grass look good? Yeah, perhaps you could use brown grass. It might look cool in here. Not really. So just give it a try and see what looks cool. As of right now, I feel like perhaps these rocks could look cool. I just want to have something that doesn't have the color of gray, yet is a decoration. You know what I'm saying? So the vases or whatever you want to call these, they looked pretty cool. So I just added more of them and that looks pretty nice. So we've basically just spiced up this whole thing. And another thing I see is that he uses these glow things, which look pretty nice. However, I feel like the bottom part is just too solid. Like it just goes, like it doesn't feel like a cave too much. So a way to fix this is to add glow coming from behind. And we're going to do that using the gradient trigger. We're going to add that into here. And we're going to disable the shaders just for now. And I'm going to give it a new ID. And we're going to do 2 objects in here. We're going to select them both. Actually, we're going to select one of them. This one is 288. This one is 289. So the bottom one is 288, 289 is the top one. I believe I probably missed that, but whatever. What we're going to do now is we're just going to make this 2. And this one's going to be a new color, which is going to be black blending or black with 0 opacity. And now by changing this to normal and flipping this, you guys will see that we have this thing. We're going to put it on max to make sure that it's on top of everything. Maybe ground would be better. Just keep making this go down until you feel like it looks clean and it doesn't. Oh, wait, this actually looks pretty cool. So what if we add this now behind? You guys can see that we just added a bit more to it. So instead of this, which just doesn't look like you're in a cave, now we made it into this. You guys see? And make sure that you actually add this behind so that it just feels like it's always there, right? So that's pretty cool. Now, if you want to do the same thing for above, pretty easy. Select the lines and everything, copy and paste, move it around, and then build helper. And now just flip this upside down, adjust the colors to make sure that they fit good. Yep, I think that looks pretty nice. And these lines, they're just not visible. So I think that looks a lot cleaner. It feels like you are inside a cave. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Now, oh, I see why the area trigger is there. That's actually a pretty good idea. Using the area trigger to basically have the background light up is a pretty good idea. So another thing I saw is, okay, the starting animation is a bit too long, but it's not the big issue because he has a checkpoint right there. And yeah, there are particles for the coins as well, which yeah, looks pretty nice. And I think that's pretty much it. That's everything I have for this part. That's all I have to say. Just make it a bit more saturated. Perhaps this color can still be adjusted to your liking. And also, maybe the colors of this are not exactly correct. Let me just, I just want to take a look at this. I'm going to copy and paste it, put it over there, and see if I can just adjust this. So the first color is this, and the second one is 11, which copies. Aha, that's smart. Okay, so what we want to do now, we can just adjust color 11 to make it more bright. And then we can make this darker, and 11 is going to be full saturation. Okay, so you guys saw what I did. So what I did was that I made color 10 a lot darker, and color 10 is the first color you guys can see that these grass use, and the second color copies color 10. So I made it copy the color 10, but I adjusted the saturation and the brightness to be absolutely max, so that color 2 is basically a lot more bright, which just makes this look a lot cleaner. Now, these guys still use color 10, which is a bit of an issue, but it's easily fixable by just making them use color 11. Or if you want to adjust it to make it more blue, you can do that as well. And yeah, I think this looks pretty nice. One last thing is, since we removed the background, I'm gonna add like a small little feature just to have it in the background. It's gonna have a 10 lifetime and quite a few particles. It's not gonna be additive, and it's gonna be very, very dark. So something like that looks pretty... we actually can't see it, so that's not that very cool. So we're gonna add that in the absolute background, and it's gonna be a bunch of rocks like falling down, and they're a bit too big, so I'm just gonna adjust them and see what's gonna look cool. So something like that, but they're still very, very bright. So changing this as well could help with the randomness. And now let me see how the rocks look like. They're still way too fast. Bring this to 0. Actually, let's do 8, and this is 3. And the quick start is always very, very necessary. I'm gonna move this down like that. And you guys can see that now it's just, we have a bit more detail for the background. You can make it, you know, the opacity random as well, just to make sure that there's a lot of randomness. And now you guys can see that there are rocks coming from above, which doesn't look bad. You can adjust the coloring as you want, but one thing that you gotta make sure is that it never ever has this, you know, fade in, fade out disabled, because that would look very weird. Also, that was a bit too dark, so yeah, just adjust the colorings as you like. And we're gonna make this into 14. We're gonna bring this up, and perhaps that's gonna look pretty cool. Let's just give it a try and see. So yeah, so far I think we've done a not bad job at making this look cleaner, and you guys get the idea. So every time you use a pixel art, just make sure. So this thing over here, I'm not too sure why it's there. I believe it's not correctly placed because it just feels too bright, and just like that looks a lot cleaner. So we're just gonna do a comparison. Now there is this next part, but this is your guys' job. You guys go ahead to this level, you copy it, and then you start adding stuff. So you guys can see this is a hint over here. I'm just giving you guys, and just spice it up until like here or something. And there's a third part if you guys want to do that, which can also be done. You guys can see that the colors, they just a little bit of work around over them might bring this from a rate into a featured. So I think that's definitely a cool way to just improve your level. Like, your level is already there, it's really good. Just these tiny touches to it would make it from really good into a featured. So this is the recreation that we have done. Also, you guys can see these guys, why are they visible? Just select them all and make them all on hide, because you really don't need them. Also, I don't like that this is, you know, on top of this of a coin, so make sure it's not. Also, this uses the color of 10, so we're gonna make that use the color of 11 just to add more stuff to it. And this thing is gonna be on top of the text. It's gonna be bigger and bigger, and it's gonna use the color a bit more like that. Yeah, so you guys saw we added a lot of stuff, but it's definitely worth it. We spent like 20 minutes just you know, improving this part, and if you do this for the entire level, it's gonna make it look a lot cleaner. So there we go. So this is the change that we have made. You guys can see that we made it a lot more saturated, and yeah, we just fixed a bunch of things. And now let's play the original one and see the difference. So you guys see that this one looks, it has a different style for sure, but I just feel like it's not as detailed or as outstanding as the recreation that we have done, though it's still pretty good. So just doing these adjustments to your guys' level can make this, it just brings your level onto a completely different level. That's a double level in a single sentence. So I hope you guys learned something new from this video, and I hope you guys can apply them to it. This level is pretty cool regardless, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure to slap the like and also subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Also, make sure to watch one of the playlists that are currently on the screen right now. You guys can see that this level also uses the tricks that I talked about. Also the piping, like, come on, bro. Oh my god.